The Hornet's Nest by Jimmy Carter. (1763). The young girl stood quiet and unseen behind the trunk of a large walnut tree, its leaves and branches scarred on one side by a recent fire. Her high-topped shoes were polished but plain, like new ones designed for a long life, and her black dress was of good quality but without frills of any kind. She wore a bonnet that only partially concealed her thick and somewhat unruly hair, most of it twisted into a tight bun on the back of her head. Hers was almost but not quite the same as clothing worn by the many Quaker families in Philadelphia. From her vantage point she could survey most of a small lot where there were the remnants of a burned house. There was a boy working just beyond where the house had stood. She knew his name was Ethan, and that his father was Samuel Pratt, the neighborhood shoemaker. This was the third time she had come to watch Ethan. Only after the ground within the foundation was cleared and swept smooth had the boy prepared a garden plot in what had been the backyard. Now he was planting small pieces of white potato from a bucket, in regularly spaced hills almost exactly a foot apart. The girl moved a few inches out into the open, and the boy looked up and saw her. For a few seconds they both seemed uncomfortable. She finally made a remark that she had carefully rehearsed. "It's interesting that those potatoes are akin to tomatoes." Ethan was somewhat aggravated to be observed without knowing it. "That's foolish. A potato grows under the ground, and tomatoes on a bush." The girl thought for a while. "Then maybe my father's book is wrong." "What kind of book?" "It describes the different food plants produced in Europe." Ethan was intrigued, but reluctant to continue talking with the stranger. He said with something of a smile, "Well, you'd better take another look." He turned to continue his work, and when he glanced up again the girl was gone. Late the next afternoon he was watering some new onion plants and saw the girl approaching from across the nearby street. She had a book in her hand and walked directly toward the garden plot without hesitation. When she arrived at the edge of the lot, she waited for him to speak first. "Well, what did you find out about the vegetables?" She glanced at the book and said, "Tomatoes and potatoes are both in the nightshade family. They came from South—"
Sample complete. Ready to continue?